Well, hello and welcome to the Heart edition of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. Yes, today's subject is going to be the heart and how to take care of it. The number one killer in the entire world, globally, the number one death is heart disease. And we're going to talk about what it looks like, what a normal heart looks like, how you go into the progression of having heart disease, heart attacks, all of the different problems with heart rates and all those type of things. We got the mainstream minute because of the climate that's going on around the world, and then of course your wonderful question. So let's go ahead and get started. No more delay on my part. Let's ask God to bring us some peace and some calm and some serenity in these times. My personal viewpoint from years of experience and research is that when we apply the knowledge that we have and gain more knowledge to be applied to a problem, it brings us peace, it brings us contentment. So let's ask for God to give us an open mind to get some knowledge today, and let's be prepared to apply it. For myself, I ask that my ego, my arrogance, my impediments be removed for your benefit. So let's get started directly into the program for today. Now, some of you have heard me say that I'm pretty much finished talking about coronavirus. And that is true. I really don't have anything to add. So if you have not heard my program on coronavirus, I did too. They're on my YouTube. So please check them out, because I think it's important for us to be knowledgeable, prepared, so that when we're inundated like we are now with the information, it's just about nothing that you can do. You go on social media, there's going to be something about coronavirus. If you go on the news, there's something on coronavirus. If you just pull up different websites, there's always something about coronavirus. So you can get over inundated, and it can become stressful. So you need to have a plan. So today, I just wanted to kind of deal with that for a little bit. There's MSN Health, right? And everything that is streaming across the top of their page is about the coronavirus. So, my statement to all of us that are trying to maintain and improve our health is, what does it do to you to have somebody take your mind and focus it on one subject as if there's nothing else going on in this country, nothing else going on in this world? What is going on with the elections? What is going on with our so-called interaction with foreign countries? Like, we just finished killing a major general in Iraq. He was very closely tied to Iran. Anybody that you talk to who's in the armed services, we're having plenty of young people being taken over abroad to that region. So what kind of information is going on that we are missing because we are being inundated with this? I mean, that's just kind of my experience. We have to be careful. And then I also want to point out something that also ties into our subject matter the other day that we were talking about when we had a discussion about Global Memorandum 200. There's a lot of information in there. You don't necessarily have to go read it all, but I do believe that you need to be aware of that. Donita Lake, thank you for coming in. And so I just wanted to share a little with you of this, and I'm going to show the headline of what it is in a minute so that maybe you all can look up yourself. But here's a little statement, right? The World Health Organization estimates that breastfeeding infants would save 820,000 lives of children under 5 annually. To educate the public who wanted to pass a non-binding resolution encouraging breastfeeding at the May 2018 UN World Health Assembly in Geneva. The resolution called on governments to protect, promote, and support breastfeeding, and for policymakers to restrict the promotion of unhealthy food products. Ecuador was scheduled to introduce the resolution. The U.S. officials at the meeting quietly threatened to unleash harsh economic sanctions on Ecuador's critical trade goods and on scheduled aid just for introducing a non-binding UN resolution. So just by trying to introduce something on a global perspective to help increase the health of the entire population of the world, the United States is threatening another country, right? What does it say? The dire threat of sanctions signaled capitalist support for the 700 billion infant formula industry. So when you're thinking about why a lot of women, like my mother back in the 50s and the 60s when she was coming up as a young person, the United States was promoting women to go to infant formula rather than breastfeeding. And now we know it's a 70 billion industry worldwide. Russia already sanctioned, with the United States and other countries, agreed to introduce the breastfeeding resolution, but language calling for an end to inappropriate promotion of foods for infants and young children was removed. So see, we're looking at these wars that are going on. And when I say war, I'm not talking about like people picking up guns, but most wars start after these type of things, right? People have wars in rooms, and they have wars of words, and then it becomes wars where you take young people and go let them kill each other over so-called something important. But look at this. Powerful, second paragraph in this section. Powerful corporations' very existence is based on expanding the price of medicines and creating shortages of doctors, drugs, and hospitals. Nationalized healthcare programs around the world threaten their profit-taking. Developing countries that have invested substantial resources in dramatically improving health standards and medical access are an increasing target of U.S. corporations. Y'all, this is not a joke we're talking about here. I mean, this is literally what I just finished saying. This is a war. People are being, basically, their whole countries are being put at a disadvantage simply because they want to find better ways to take care of their people. And just look at some of the countries that are here. Iraq, Iran, Democratic Republic of Korea, Zimbabwe, Venezuela. The list would go on and on and on if we were to go in depth in the foreign policy of the United States. But why am I going here? See, I'm not interested in giving you all more bad news. There's enough bad news out here. The reason why I brought this up is for a very specific reason, and that is I have been to other countries. I've been to Mexico on multiple occasions. I've been to a lot of the islands, and I haven't been to the motherland yet. I'm planning on going there. But the point that I'm getting to is that every place that I go, in the places where a lot of tourism is, you see certain things, they look nice, whatever. But when you start going out into the countryside, when you start going out where the indigenous people are, you see a lot of poverty. You see a lot of stuff that doesn't look like it would attract you if that was the reality of that country or that place that you were going, right? But what is the difference right here in the country that you live? Some of you may live in Baltimore, D.C., New York, Houston, Los Angeles. Most of the cities in this country that I go to, anytime I go downtown, I see many homeless people. I see homeless areas where you go blocks and blocks and you see people living in tents and cardboard homes and laying on the ground in cardboard boxes. And when it's cold, they're, got things to try to keep them warm. So yes, we have to start understanding that the responsibility of having toilet paper and anything else that you need for yourself has to become a responsibility of yours. You have to make sure that you have the ability to be comfortable in your home for a few months, potentially. Because going through this type of a reality in your home and then going out and being worried and not having anything in the shelves or being concerned about interacting with other people, it can really take an overwhelming toll on your mind and your body. And this is very applicable to today's program because we're talking about the heart, right? And anytime you have stress, as I've said on many of occasions, stress cannot cause medical problems. When your lifestyle is not adequate, stress can lead to the exacerbation of that deterioration and a disease can be produced. But stress should be looked at as an exacerbation of disease, not a causer of disease. And so let's get into the program today after I say hello. Shirley X, thank you for coming in. Kimberly Harris, thank you for coming in. Ronnie Alexander, Zena Hayes, Kenyon X, thank you for coming in. Yes, sir, I understand. I appreciate y'all coming in. I know you're busy. Aaliyah, thank you for coming in. So let's get right into the show for today, you all. I don't want to hold back. I want to get to your questions. I want to make sure you get some good information. And please, everybody, if you think it's important for people to understand more about their heart, please share the show, all right? Share the show for me. Kenyon, you said, no, she blessed too. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. Gloria Miller, thank you for coming in. Thank you for the lightning message. Well, I appreciate you coming in to hear it. Okay, so let's get started. I want to start with just some basics of the heart. And so let's look at the heart in general, right? This is what you see typically. When we look at the heart, we're thinking about this right there, but this is cut in half so that you can see inside and see exactly what's happening, all right? So this blue vessel right here is coming from the legs. That's called the inferior vena cava. Not necessarily if you all to remember all these words. Celestine, thank you for coming in. So this is coming from the lower legs and the intestines and all the parts of the lower body, bringing blood back into the heart. So it's coming in, going into the atria. Atria are the openings at the top of the heart. Together they're called atrium. Sister Jeanette, thank you for coming in. The bottom two sections are the ventricles. May Helen, thank you for coming in. Okay, so we bring blood flow from the lower part of the body back into this section. These blood vessels are coming from the head, the arms, all of that part, and coming in here. And then the top atria pump into the ventricle. Raphael Larisha, thank you for coming in. So once you bring this blood flow from the parts of the body where the oxygen has been taken out, we got, okay, she busy. I got you, Kenyon. Maxine, thank you for coming in. And so now you have this blood. The reason why it's blue is because it doesn't have the oxygenation. There's a lot of waste in it, right? So we pump that in here, pump it down into the ventricle, and then we pump it out to the lungs. So you see left pulmonary veins. Well, some of you might say, well, and right pulmonary veins, right? Well, I thought the veins brought the blue blood. It does, except in the lungs, right? This blood is coming in from out in the body, right? It gets sent to the lungs in these pulmonary arteries. It's the only arteries in the body that carries deoxygenated blood. When you take that deep breath, you put that oxygen back in those blood vessels, back in the blood cells, and then it comes back oxygenated. So the veins are bringing back oxygenated blood going into the ventricle, into the atrium first, and then down into the ventricle, and then the ventricle pumps it out into the aorta. And then the aorta has, you see those blood vessels right there going up into the arms and into the head. And then this that's going down is going down into the intestines, into the lower part of the body, the legs, all those areas. So I hope that makes sense, just as some basic anatomy of the heart and how it works. That's the way the blood flows. This is a very intricate system. I'm going to get into a little more, but I'm going to go next into how and why does it continue to pump like that. Now, here we have what's called the sinoatrial node. Just means it's the pacemaker of the heart. It's still controlled by the brain, but it does have some autonomy. And then you have the next node, which is called the atrioventricular bundle. The atrioventricular node, which is that one right here. Now, what are these? These are the automatic nerves that send the impulse so that the heart beats. So when your heart, if you put your hand on your heart and you feel your heart beat, or you put your finger on your pulse and you feel that your heart is doing that, it's being told to do that by those nerve bundles. Again, it is controlled by by the brain, but the heart has some autonomy. How do you know that? Because sometimes people can be diagnosed as being brain dead. Some people can have very serious injuries to their head and their brain is not even functioning, but the heart keeps beating because this does have some autonomy. So if you look at those arrows, those yellow arrows, that's where the sinoatrial node sends its signal so that that top part of your heart continues to beat, right? And then that signal also touches that AV node, and that's what sends the message down into the bottom part to do what? Continue to beat. It's very quick. If you put your hand over your heart right now while I'm talking, you can feel that beat, right? If you get excited, it's going to go a little faster. If you relax, it's going to go a little slower. If somebody comes in and gives you some bad news, your heart's going to get a little faster. If somebody calls you on the phone right now while you're driving and you have an accident, they're going to hear you go crazy. Your heart is going to increase beating. So these nodes will be taking care of all of that, but that increase if you get anxious, increase if you get some information that's not necessarily good, that is being controlled by the brain. There's a nerve that comes down along the esophagus and runs right down along in between these two vessels. That's called the vagus nerve. It comes out of the brain, and it is very important in increasing or decreasing the heart rate depending on what's going on. So all of these aspects that you see in here all have a very intricate process. Alexander Tyrone, thank you for coming in. And so again, as I talk about different systems of the body, and some of you have heard a lot of different shows, you can come to a conclusion like I have, that this human body doesn't have mistakes. We're not born with a genetic code for something to go wrong. We're not born with a genetic code of disease. That's just not our reality. We're born with a body that has the ability to take care of everything that we need to do to handle any situation and to live many hundreds of years. And yes, I did say hundreds of years. The average lifespan that we are looking at in our parents, in our grandparents, in our uncles and aunts is nowhere near the capability of this body. Yes, Maxine, it's a beautiful thing. The vagus nerve does a lot. It's probably, not probably, it is the longest cranial nerve, meaning nerves that are originated up here in the brain somewhere, but that one goes all the way down here, whereas the rest of them stay kind of in this area somewhere. But you know, it's a very intricate system. So let's get more into the intricacies of this heart. Now, I just wanted to kind of reiterate a point from last week. When I'm talking about the heart, that's, I hope you all can see that really well. That's a better picture right there. That's all the blood vessels in the face and the neck. All right, another good picture would be this one. See how all those small blood vessels are wrapped around that heart? And this is the kidney. That little thing in the middle is the pancreas. That's the other kidney. You're looking at the hips, right? The hands. All of these areas of the body take many blood vessels. We're talking about millions, billions, maybe even trillions of blood vessels. And so that heart every day is pumping, right? As we said last week, when it pumps, that's a systolic number. If you get your blood pressure checked, the number on the top is systolic. That's when the heart pumps. When the heart relaxes, that's when the blood is coming back into the heart. That's the diastolic number. That's that bottom number. But that real small period of time in between the heartbeat, so right, we're talking about boom, 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 boom. That real small period of time in between the beat and the relaxation is when the heart has to replenish itself. So you see these blood vessels on here. We don't have to remember all these: left coronary, circumflex. That's all the stuff I have to memorize. Just understand that these blood vessels that are running along the side of the heart have a very small period of time to nourish the heart that's doing all this work, right? Now you think about the fact that your heart is beating, let's say 60, 70, 80, 50, whatever number of times per minute, and you multiply that by a day, and then you multiply that by a year, and then you multiply that by living 80 years or 90 years or 100 years. That's how many times this thing has to work all day, every day. Takes no rest. It may slow down a little at night while you sleep, but it's still beating. So the importance of these blood vessels right here is to keep this thing alive. These blood vessels are hugely important to the health of your heart. And your heart is absolutely necessary for everything that you do, right? You can't live without a heart. And so when we're looking at this picture of all of those blood vessels, and we're looking at a picture of all of the blood vessels of the body, and then there's another one where we can look at all the blood vessels of the body, that's a lot of work that a heart has to do every single minute, every single second of every day, is replenishing the entire body. The skin that you look in the mirror, if it's healthy, the nose, the hair, all of the things that are underneath, the bones and everything has to be taken care of by the fact that the heart continues to pump everything all along the body. Now, what's in the blood? All of the basic nutrients, right? So let's look at this real quick. I just wrote these down because I couldn't find any sites that I was satisfied with. So when you sit down and you eat your food, you're trying to get proteins. And we break that down into amino acids in the stomach. And understand, for all of you who this may be your first time, you do not have to get your proteins from meat, from an animal. The best protein source is from plant-based. Sugar, that's a carbohydrate, that's starch, and that's sugar, all the same family. All right? You pile up 2 or 3 sugars, you get a carbohydrate. You pile up a bunch of carbohydrates, you get a starch, still the same family. Fat, lipids, and cholesterol, very similar. All right? There's different aspects of the same reality. You need minerals, and we're talking about micro nutrients. So everything on a periodic table, I'm going to show a picture of that in a minute. Water, oxygen. The only thing that I would add to this list that a lot of people don't consider is phyto nutrients. What are those? The things that come from plants that help heal the body, that help fix things, that help keep us from aging, right? I talked about last week about a banana or an apple. You bite a banana, you cut it, you break a banana, it starts turning brown. The human body is doing the same thing every day. And so when you eat foods that are antioxidants, which the best class is fruits, you decrease your aging, but you're also fixing things. So all of these essentials that need to go into your body is what winds up everywhere where these go, right? And all of these things, when you absorb into your body after you've broken them down in your stomach, you can't see this with your eye. Well, of course, except oxygen. We're breathing that in through the lungs, right? But everything else, including oxygen, we can't see with our naked eye. And so that's what the purpose of the blood is. And that's what the purpose of the heart is to pump and make sure everything that you see and even the things that you can't see stays alive and functions well. Danny, thank you for coming in, bro. Okay, so I hope this is making sense to you all so far, because ultimately this is the most important aspect of the system that we're talking about. So I got to go back and do a little something else real quick so that you all understand a few things. Now, let's talk about how beautiful the God is that made this. This system, that atrium, that ventricle, and that ventricle have the ability, when they open up and accept how much blood, they have an automatic determination of whether or not they have enough blood to send to the parts of the body that are asking for it. Okay? Let's look at, real quick, because I think it will help to make this point, that when the body has a need, as we talked about before, the human body is going to say, let's say for instance, one of you has been outside today. It's a very smoggy day, or it's a very, Zambezi, thank you for coming in. It's a day where there's a lot of just stuff in the air that area where you live considers it not a good day as far as air quality. So you're breathing all day, working outside, and when you come in and you start relaxing, after you get out of that bad air, your body starts looking at what's going on in your lungs by what? By the blood flow. So your blood flow is taking blood all over the body, but the brain is evaluating everything. So the brain is saying, we got a lot of toxins in today. These lungs need some repair, but I also have to improve some cleansing of the whole body, because some of the stuff that came in through the lungs is being spread where? Everywhere where there are blood vessels. So see, if I'm outside breathing in bad stuff, everywhere you see a blood vessel, that bad stuff is going to go. But in addition, everything that you sit down and you eat, after you finish doing whatever you were doing outside, you come and put some good food, then all this good stuff, after you digest it, is going to go where? All those same places, to fix the damage, to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of, because you were out there working. You might have been damaging some muscles, damaging some blood vessels, damaging some tissues. Silos Congas, thank you for coming in. George Allen, thank you for coming in. So I hope this is making sense to you all. So these organs and this body is in constant communication, because what? The heart continues to pump the blood. The blood goes to the brain. The brain evaluates everything that's going on: oxygen level, temperature of the body, hunger, thirst, necessity for more water in the brain, more in the muscles. Do the muscles have enough sugar to handle my typical ability? Does the liver have enough ability to take all these toxins out that I just finished breathing? This body is so beautiful, so many checks and balances. We could never put disease on the God that we serve. That's the point that I'm getting to. This body is so perfect, so beautiful, that our inability to understand how to take care of it is what causes disease, and then we want to blame it on genes, which is just a cowardly way of blaming it on God. So anyway, back to the point. So if it's the atrium or the ventricle, when it opens up and it gets the amount of blood that's coming in, it knows immediately, I have enough to send to the liver because the liver's asking me for some help. I have enough to send to the lungs because the lungs are asking me for some help. I have enough to send to the muscles because the muscles are asking me for help. That's the way the body communicates. So sometimes if you're sitting down and you feel your heart still pumping a little bit, it might be because the body's asking for some things, and so your body is saying, hey, I got to pump a little faster to help everybody I need. Victor, thank you for coming in, bro. And so it would be no different than a mother who has 8 children, right? And all of them are in the house. And you got 4 or 5 different children asking mommy a question at one time. If she's a very astute and attentive mama, she might be able to get some of the older children and help some of the younger ones. But at some point, she is the one that's going to help everybody to some degree. I hope that makes sense. So the heart and the brain have to deal with every part of the body in a very instantaneous moment. And it changes time, with activity, with this focus, with that focus. Imagine, again, right, we're outside, we're dealing with something like I'm in Southern California right now. Southern California has the worst car-produced smog in the country, and Houston has the worst corporation or industrial smog. So if you live in either one of those places, when you finish with your day and you go home, let's say that you have finished a long day and you sit down on your couch or you sit down somewhere just to relax, what is your body saying? Maria Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Your body may be saying, got to clean these lungs, got to boost the liver so it can take out some of these toxins. And if you were working hard from a physical perspective, your body is saying, we got to repair some of the damage that was done to these muscles. We got to send some more nutrition to the muscles because this body is doing this every day. Your body learns to get into a rhythm, right? So that heart is doing what? It has to pump to meet the needs, right? Let's say all these things are going on and you didn't drink enough water. So now your kidneys are a little in trouble because you haven't had enough fluids. Now the kidneys calling, hey, we need some more blood. We don't have enough. So it's like a demand. And so if you're sitting sometimes and you just feel your heart pumping real fast, that doesn't always mean there's a problem. It could, but sometimes it's just the metabolic needs of the body is calling. And what does the heart have as an option? 0. Your heart is going to do what it's told to do. The brain is sending those signals. The brain is getting the information from the kidney, from the liver, from the lungs. It's stuff that runs through our blood that are messengers that tell the brain what's going on. And so the brain goes into action and does what? Tells the heart to beat. Okay? And then we get down to this section here, which is the capillary, right? Every artery that gets pumped by that by that heart, goes around the body like we just saw those pictures. And then when you get to the capillaries, that's where all of these good things that we should be bringing into our body goes into the tissues. So you have capillaries in every organ, right? Let's go back and look at the organs. Put this in your mind, right? Remember this. And now we're going to go look at these organs again. And so every single one of these organs is kept alive by that blood vessel that I just showed, right? So if we go back to that blood vessel, that's what keeps it alive. Why? Because you get blood that takes oxygen, takes the nutrients, and this is where it comes out. The capillaries are like meshes. So there's little openings in there. It's too small for us to see, but all these nutrients, again, I said, right, all are too small for us to see, so they're being allowed to go into the tissues through those capillaries. And that's how everything stays alive, right? So we talked earlier about, last program about a normal artery, right? So these little blood vessels that you see are carrying oxygen, and they carry sugar. And then we have other things that carry some of these things, and some of these things just run through the air by themselves. But there's a normal artery that's taking blood flow with everything that you did good to wherever it needs to go. But some of us don't know how to eat correctly. We do a lot of chips. We do a lot of meat. We eat a lot of processed foods. So this type of stuff starts occurring, building plaques when we're in our teens. And then when you get older, you have a block, you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, your kidneys stop working well, or you just have, problems with your blood flow. So you have circulation issues where your toes get cold and your feet are tingly or whatever may happen. There are a lot of different things that could happen. I can't get into them all, but I'm just showing some examples of what happens over time when we're not taking care of ourselves, right? That's looking at it from a perspective just different, right? If the blood is supposed to flow through normally like that, what happens when it's blocked like this? What does that do to your heart? How does that increase the work of the heart? If when you were born, if your heart was given certain many of trillions of heartbeats, which would last you 1,000 years, every time you do something wrong, you take away 10 beats, right? If you're doing something wrong every day, at the end of the year, 365 days in a year, you add 10 to that, you got 3,650 beats you just decreased from the, let's say, 8 billion trillion that you were given at birth. I hope that's making sense, because that's really how I look at how the human body works. We're born with the ability to live to 1,000 years, but it's bad parenting and not doing breast milk and giving infant formula when babies are small that starts to deteriorate their body. And then we're teenagers and we become rebellious. We want to do what the hell we want to do. And then some mothers aren't teaching well anyway. Not to put any mothers, fathers aren't teaching well either. And so we're teaching bad habits to our children. And you go out in the world and you start doing what's easy and what's quick and what's goes with the lifestyle that you produce to put your health last after running after the bag. And then you wonder why your blood vessels look like this. And you become victim to the #1 killer on the planet Earth. That's a heart attack. It is the #1 death globally, having a heart attack. 50% of people that have a heart attack not going to make it to the hospital. Another percentage die in the hospital. Some people have a heart attack, don't change, they have a second heart attack. Your chances of dying on your second heart attack, I think, is somewhere between 60 to 70%. So not taking care of your body, there are things that are coming. And this is what I was talking about a little while ago, right? You get a plaque down in your leg, and the next thing you know, your hair starts to coming off. So, either while we're doing this program or when we get off this program, all of you need to look at your calf. Not your calf, I'm talking about your shin. The hair that's on the front of your lower leg, this area right here, if your hair has started to come out, that means your blood flow is inadequate. That means that your hair doesn't have enough blood flow to keep it functioning, your hair follicles. If you have a problem in your lower leg, how could you possibly not have a problem all the way around the body? It's not just the heart. When people die from a heart attack, you just didn't have a problem with your heart. You had a problem with all of those organs we just looked at. Your heart was in the worst situation, and that's why it took you out. Maxine, I'm very interested in amounts of phytonutrients needed to reverse damage I've done with my body. Maxine, I'm going to answer your question in just a few minutes, okay? I'm just going to get through a few more slides, and I'm going to talk about that question that you've asked a couple of times. So I want to help you with your confidence today. Okay, let me go back and make sure I made all the points here. And then we will move forward. I think that was everything. No, I wanted to make this point. Okay, so there's just another example, right? This is probably somebody that's a teenager in their early 20s. This is probably a person in 30s or 40s. And this is a person that's getting the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And this is a person that's damn near dead. Death waiting to happen. Tawana, thank you for coming in, okay? So I hope this is making sense. What you do every day is going to determine whether that does or does not happen. And so here's just a depiction of what's happening, right? I talked before about the importance of these blood vessels, right? And so when you get the atheroma the plaque in the blood vessel, like I just finished discussing, and that blocks one of these heart vessels, your muscle doesn't have any blood flow. It starts to die, or it is severely damaged. It can't beat anymore like it's supposed to. So now what? All of those things I just finished talking about, how the heart pushes the blood so that everything in the human body can be nourished, but also that's the communication to the brain so that the brain can continue to dictate what needs and where stuff has to go. You're going to decrease the ability of that aspect of the body, so you're really decreasing the total body capability by not taking care of what it takes to keep yourself functioning correctly. What clears plaque that we can begin to take on a daily basis as a supplement? Katasha Smart, thank you for coming in, first of all. Secondly, I appreciate your question. Thirdly, I'm going to have to use you as an example. Okay? Don't get upset at me. But the word take in your statement, I would change to what to clear a plaque can we do on a daily basis? Okay? Because I want you to understand that if God made the body this intricately, perfectly, then he also put things on the planet to help you take care of this so intricately, perfectly. Okay? Now, again, I'm going to talk about a few more things and I'm going to get to that answer. Katasha Smart, and I pray that I didn't offend you. I just wanted to use your statement as an example of how I respond to people because it's not your fault. You probably came up in a household like I did, and most of us did, where our parents, our grandparents, our uncles, our aunts talked about taking something when somebody was, oh, I got this pain in my knee, I'm going to take something. I got a headache, I'm going to take something. I got this problem, the doctor told me, I'm going to take something. We have to get away from that. We have to start letting the body heal itself because it has the capability. But the thing is that we have to learn what is the foundation of those needs. Jamil, thank you for coming in. You said powerful. Nobody can argue with the truth. All we can do is strive to be healed by Allah's grace. That's why we are here. Absolutely. Thank you, Katasha, for not taking offense. I appreciate it. And I'm going to get to you and Maxine's question in just a few minutes, okay? And when I get there, I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush like I've been doing. I'm going to take my time because I really want you to understand that, all right? So if we look at these common heart attack warning signs, and maybe a little small, but it says pain or discomfort in the chest. And understand, yeah, that's number one, right? It usually is not just any old kind of pain. Usually it is a pressing, feeling like something is pressing against your chest. Something is not allowing you to expand. That's the type of way most people describe heart attacks. And it sometimes goes into the left arm and into the jaw, sometimes into the face. Okay? So we're talking, usually people will describe something in the left side, right? Going into the arm, going to the side of the face, or going into the jaw. It's not always. That's not always what happens, but that usually is a percentage of the people, and usually a pretty high percentage of the people, right? What does it say next? Lightheadedness, nausea, vomiting, jaw, neck, or back pain, discomfort or pain in the arm or the shoulder, shortness of breath, right? So any of those 5 things can happen. But let's also understand that any of those 5 things can mean a whole bunch of things. But it is good to understand that those basic things could be happening when a person is complaining of a heart attack. Okay? Jamil says, I love that my brother is a physician who builds his whole expression on God. Absolutely, bro. I mean, if it wasn't for God, I'd still be talking like what them foolish people taught me in medical school, and it wouldn't be helping you. So I'm glad that God changed my life. Gloria Miller, I have very, very little hair on my body. Is there another way to recognize this deficiency? Gloria Miller, thank you for that open question. April Muhammad, thank you for coming in. No, it doesn't mean. If you're the type of person that's never had hair on your body, then you can't use my measurement, because there are people who can't use that as an evaluation. But we'll talk about that in a minute because, yes, I'm going to talk about some other ways that you can look at your human body and tell that you need some help. Donna Jones says, a lot of us women have been encouraged to use them hair removals all over so they're not knowing what's going on with their body. Absolutely. For women who shave under their arms and women who shave their legs and shave with the bikini line and shave for their bra lines and all those type of things, the first thing that I would have to say, Donna Jones, is that you are correct. There's some aspects of a woman growing hair on her body that is abnormal. So if a woman grows hair here, like I have here, that's not necessarily normal for a woman. And if she has hair down here on her neck and her chest, that's not necessarily, and I'm saying not necessarily because there are variances to everything. But in general, a woman will not grow hair here and on her chest like a man does. But hair under your arm and hair on your legs are for a purpose, and they're also for a reason. Everything is for a reason, just like myself. With the fact that I don't like that I'm balding, so I cut my hair so my whole hair is bald. There are problems that it's causing with my skin, the sun, because the hair is to protect from the sun. It also does things to keep the head cool. All right, so there's always some problem when we do things from a vanity perspective, from an anatomical and a physiological perspective. Regina Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Okay, so good points. But I want to talk about what happens in a person who may have a heart attack and still live. And I want to talk about what's happening to most people, right? We said at the beginning of this program that heart disease and heart attacks are the #1 killers of people all over the world. Donna Jones says we're losing eyebrows and drawing them in. Yeah, I'm going to refrain from commenting just in case there's anybody that's listening that has that. But I mean, I think it's something that we have to really take in consideration. Vanity over the physiological mean of why things are on our body. So this is just showing the difference between this muscle and the one I showed you in the beginning, right? So let's go back and look. You see how healthy and strong that looks just from the depiction of this person's drawing, right? And we go back to this one, and it looks a little dilapidated. It looks a little weak. This is what's happening when you don't listen to the signs, when you don't know how to listen to the signs as the body ages. This is called this is going into stages of congestive heart failure. And I don't really need to go into the specifics, but what is happening is that heart can't beat like it did when it was younger, right? Every time your heart beats, it's supposed to be pushing out a majority of the blood that it brings in. That's called your ejection fraction. So your ejection fraction should be 70% above. Why only 70%? Because I talked about the fact that in between the beats, the blood has to go in here. So there has to be some blood flow left in the ventricles and in the atria in order to soothe and give nutrients to the heart, right? Beautiful system. There's no mistakes. God don't make no mistakes. And so when we get a weaker heart, your ejection fraction might come down to 40, 30, 20. I've seen people down in the teens. And so what happens? You start backing up fluid. The heart is not strong enough to pump it out. So they got a picture of his lung. It's got fluid in it right there. You see? So if your body is not able to function correctly because the heart doesn't have the capability to push like it's made to do, you start having major problems. Is it possible that fluid is just backing up in the lungs and the feet? No. The liver's in trouble. The intestines are in trouble. The kidneys are in trouble. Pancreas in trouble. Everything's in trouble. The brain can't function right. Y'all, we're talking about slow death. It's a non-determined suicide. And I'm not saying that anybody's going out here to try to kill themselves, but when we don't have the right information, it really is, right? We're coughing. Why? Because the fluid is building up in the lungs. You got swelling in your intestines and your belly gets big. You don't have a lot of energy. Why? I just went through all the systems, how the brain is pumping the blood throughout the body, and those bodies are sending signals to the brain so it knows what to do. If that's not working correctly, then how could you have the right type of energy? How could you have the right type of stores in the muscles in order to do right? How can you get all this fluid out of your legs when you stand up all day or you sit all day? You don't exercise enough. You don't get the body moving so that it can keep this pump working correctly and all this fluid moving around the body like it's supposed to. D. Kiki, thank you for coming in. Okay, so I hope this is making sense. If the heart is not able to pump correctly, things back up. Okay, just another example of those pathways, right? This is the SA node, this is the AV node, and this is where they send their signals, all where that green stuff is happening. And so when you come to us and we do what we call an EKG, right, it looks like that. You got a blip, which is the heartbeat, and then you have this small phase in between where the heart is so it's getting all the electricity back ready to do another beat. And then that little blip at the beginning is what's sending the message to the atrium, and then the big one is sending the message to the ventricles, right? This is happening. All this electricity, beat by beat by beat by beat, right? So what happens when a person isn't taking care of themselves and their heart starts beating like this? That's normal, right? I just talked about that. We don't need to get into all that. Just understand that's sending a message to the atrium, sending a message to the ventricles, reestablishing itself all over again. So when your body starts beating and these things aren't doing right, you see that long phase in there, you see that big old thing that's different, real wide. We call that a widening of the beat. You see all these little beats happening in between. These are all abnormalities that happen when what? When a person doesn't know how to take care of this body correctly. And so just like your pancreas can deteriorate and cause diabetes, just like your kidneys can decrease and you can't urinate like you need to, just like your brain can stop functioning correctly and you start getting memory problems. Y'all, it's not 8, 9 different problems going on in 8, 9 different organs. It's all the same problem, and the body has the ability to take care of itself, heal itself, but we're not doing enough to take care of one organ, so they're all going down. All right? But this whole system that we're looking at right here is taking care of what? In between the beats. Boom, 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 boom. Feel your heart. Just take your hand and do that the way your heart is beating. So that real quick period of time in between those beats is when your heart has to get the nutrition because you are eating the right things to make sure that this system continues to function right. Or you start deteriorating, going into the direction of a person who can't function anywhere in the body correctly. Maxine, thank you. Jamil said, I got to assume that I got to do the most. The most, yes, we're going to get to all that in just a minute. I want to put some beneficial thoughts in everybody's head, okay? All right, I'm not going to go into this because I don't need to. Top 10 leading causes of death, 20 is just information about the fact that the heart is the leading cause of death all over the world. So rather than talk about that, we're going to go right into what we need to talk about. And that is understanding this right here. Talked to you guys last week about the calcium channels in our body. There's calcium, there's magnesium, there's sodium, there's potassium, there's oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, chloride. You cannot live without any of those things that I just finished mentioning in large amounts. You have to have that in your body in large amounts in order for your heart to beat every day, for your muscles to work, for your brain and the cells to communicate with each other. So this is the minerals and nutrients. You have to have these. Where do you get these mostly? In your food. So if you know how to get the right food, you know how to bring the right micronutrients in your body. And for those who want to say, well, there are not enough nutrients left in the soil, well, the body has the ability to live off of one meal a day. So if you're eating multiple meals a day, you're putting plenty in there. You're just putting the wrong type of things in there. There's no way that you're going to go to GNC, the vitamin shop, or any of these places where you can buy all these things and you go and you find a bottle in there, right? It says calcium. Now you think that the calcium that you're taking from that tablet is better than the calcium that you're going to get out of a broccoli, out of some cauliflower, out of that orange, out of the strawberry, out of the banana? You think the magnesium that you're getting or the sodium that you're getting is just going to be by itself? No. The food that you eat has everything that comes into the body in the associations that you need. For every calcium that travels in the body, which is very important to heart health, every calcium, there's a magnesium that travels. Sometimes it'd be 3 calcium and 2 magnesium. Sometimes it's 1 calcium for 1 magnesium. It depends on the cell and depends on the transport mechanism. When you have a sodium go one way, you have a chloride go the other. Sometimes you have a sodium potassium. So you have a sodium go one way, you have a potassium. I showed some of those pictures last week. So please, if you all don't understand what I'm saying, go back and check out the blood pressure program. But it's really important for us to understand Jamil says, welcome to all folks who are here because I shared my brother. Yeah, please, everybody share the show. Please, people really need this type of information so that we can stop being afraid of these medical problems and put a program in place that's going to help take you in the right direction. Taking one step in the right direction every day will get you where you need to be, which I'm about to get into. Kay Darling says, I had a fib and had ablation in August, and my ejection fraction went from 40 to 65 to 70. What shall I do to keep my body healthy? I am 69 years young. Thank you. Well, I will say this, Kay Darling. First of all, you're going to have to reach out to me after the show is over because I'd have to look more into what is going on with you physically. What I'm about to talk about now is just general stuff, but we're going to have to talk specifically. Now, I'm going to tell a story, and then I'm going to get into what it looked like. We're going to go over a little. I hope you all are okay with that, but we're going to get into the specifics of what we need to do, okay? Now, here's first thing. I had a patient, and this is one of the things that makes me so confident and have absolutely no doubt in what I say. I had a patient that was in the hospital. She had a heart attack. 10 years almost to the date of her first heart attack. In her first heart attack, she had what we call the CABG surgery, CABG, coronary artery bypass graft, meaning that they take blood vessels from your lower leg and your calf and your lower leg. They take those out and put them on your heart, right? Again, let's go back and look at this picture. Somebody ringing our doorbell while I'm trying to do this program. Ain't that crazy? But anyway, the blood vessel on the outside of the heart right here, those blood vessels are replaced. So when that gets clogged, like we talked about a few minutes ago, then what they do is they take the blood vessels out of your leg and they'll put that on the heart so that your blood flow can continue to take care of those heart muscle, right? To keep it alive, to keep all the things that we were just talking about. So when she had her heart attack, the doctor said, because she didn't have insurance, that there was nothing that they could do for her, that she, in essence, needed to go home and just prepare herself to die. Basically told her to go home and get on hospice. A friend of mine called me. I went to the hospital. I looked over her stuff. She was in a horrible state of mind. My suggestion to her was, leave this hospital as soon as you can. Went to her house, just sat down with her, talked to her about some things. Long story short, in 1 year, she went from that condition that she was in to her heart having deteriorated, all those old blood vessels off of her heart. She made completely new blood vessels. So all of these blood vessels here were from her leg. Her body deteriorated them and got rid of them, and she made brand new blood vessels. The doctors that did the test when they sent her home and the ones that did it when she came back were the same doctors. They had been practicing medicine at that time in excess of 20 years, and they said they had never seen anything like that. All she did was follow a program that I put her on for a year. And that program was based on how to eat to live, and she completely healed her heart. Her ejection fraction when she came out of the hospital was in the 20s. And when she went back, it was 70 like yours, Kay Darling. So again, 70 is considered normal. Some people's hearts are efficient enough where they may be pumping out a little more, but you have to have some left to feed the heart, like I talked about a little while ago. But I have seen people come from the teens and the 20s all the way back up to 70 with no heart, with no ablation surgery, with no pacemaker. That's how great the body has. So to Maxine's point, and to I forgot to say, Dwayne, thank you for coming in. Okay, how can we assess how healthy or I'm going to say that. I'm trying to find a name. There was somebody else that glowed. No, it was Katasha Smart. Okay, so Katasha Smart and Maxine, I'm getting to your point. If this woman can take a heart with blood vessels out of her leg, and her heart had deteriorated to a point where it was only pushing out. All right, let's go back and look at this. So when we look at Rondell Rivera, she said, wow. So we're looking at the total blood amount that's in this ventricle. This is the one that we're measuring. The left ventricle is what pushes out to the body, right? So when we measure 100% of the blood that's in here, we want 70 to 80% of that blood flow to go out, 20% to remain 20 to 30%, so that in between those beats, all of this tissue gets to be kept alive. And all those nerves that we talked about earlier that sends the signals and all that, all of this is kept alive, right? So we need that blood flow, and we need that small amount that doesn't go in. But if she can replace those blood vessels and increase her heart back to normal, are you concerned about a blood vessel or some blood vessels? Are you concerned about the damage that you did for the years that you smoked or you used drugs? I'm here to tell you that I'm not concerned about none of that. Did I probably cause some damage in those years where I smoked and drank and used drugs? Of course I did. But when you start thinking like this, the first powerful aspect of this is that you think you can heal. You think that you can improve your body. And so going into the specifics, you would have to go back and listen to Optimal Vegetarianism. You'd have to go listen to the Science of Eating, because I cover all of the things specifically that you need to do. I want to talk about how you can gain the confidence in that you can heal, because I'm going to give you an everyday reality that you can check. And then Dwayne, I'm going to answer your question on how do we watch the body and tell that it's not doing well. So everybody has scratched themselves, right? I'm just going to show you something that I did the other day. I scratched my arm. I don't remember what I was doing, but probably in about another week or so, definitely a couple of weeks after those scabs come off, I may not, after the skin heals and the skin heals and the skin gets back to its normal color, I may not be able to recognize that that even happened. Would you all agree? I think everybody would agree. You've cut yourself, scraped yourself. Some of us shave and scrape ourselves. Some of you women have curled your hair and burned yourself on the back of the neck. But then you go back and you look days later, months later, whatever, don't even see where those injuries are. Why would the God that we serve make your skin heal like that and the rest of your body can't? That's just a philosophy that I have. The skin is an organ, and it heals perfectly. You can look as close as you want to in the mirror or someplace where you've injured yourself, and sometimes you can't tell. But every day, if you wash yourself with a white washcloth, you get brown stuff on your washcloth. Most of us aren't doing the type of work to get real dirty, but that brown stuff is your skin. So you're replacing skin every day, and you can't even tell. That's how perfectly your body heals. That's how perfect your DNA is. The DNA of your heart, the DNA of your liver, the DNA of your lungs, the DNA of your brain, the DNA of your skin is how you replace the next cell. So if you can replace a cell, you can replace 100 cells. If you can replace 100 cells, you can do 1,000,000. If you do 1,000,000, you do 1,000,000,000. They all are replaced the same way. How? Making sure that these are solid, making sure that these are quality. Don't settle for less. We all mess up from time to time, but on a regular, everyday basis, you should be trying to make sure that you're putting the best things in your body. Why? Because your B vitamins are highly tied to your DNA. So you repair DNA every day. We go outside and talked about being exposed to smog, being exposed to chemicals, eating bad foods. What do you do when you do those type of things? Damage DNA. And then the damaged DNA produces a half-baked or half-qualified cell. And that's how you deteriorate, Dwayne. You can look at your skin and tell when your skin is starting to age or wrinkle or starting to get spots on it. You can tell by the way you feel. Like I said, you can tell by looking at the front of your calf. Those of you who have hair on the front of your shin, when you look at your shin and you're 30, 40, 50, or 60 and your hair is all gone and you didn't shave it, that's a sign of poor circulation. You look at your fingernails. They don't look healthy. You got lines in them, or they got marks in them, or they got colorings in them, or they just don't seem to be right. They're brittle. That's a sign. You look at your hair, whether it's your eyebrows, your mustache, your hair on your body. You can tell when your hair is starting to deteriorate. Gray hair isn't a sign of deterioration. Gray hair is not normal for aging. Gray hair is a sign of deterioration of nutrients. So these are all things that we can do. We can look in our eyes. Sometimes you see yellow in the white part of the eye or brown spots. That's a sign of deterioration. That's a sign of toxicity. These are all the things that we can do every day to take an inventory of how our health is. And then when you get to work and you start doing the things that you need to do, as I have discussed on many of my programs, you will start to see some of these things improving. Another thing is, what do your joints feel like? If there's a day where, I mean, if some of you check your pedometers and you walk, 8,000 steps a day or 15,000 steps a day, whatever it is on your regular basis, whatever your average is, if there's a day where you do something special or you have some serious responsibility and you walk 30,000 steps, how do your feet feel? How do your knees feel? How do your hips feel? When you sit down for a long period of time, is it hard for you to get out of the seat? When you get up in the morning, are your joints so stiff that you potentially could fall and it takes you a few steps, or it takes you a while before your joints get to a place where you can walk without pain? Those are all evaluative measures that we can do every day on ourselves, because all of that is a measurement of what is my status, what is my body's cleansing ability, what is my body's nutritional status. And so when we are talking about the heart, we are talking about the ability to stay alive past what kills most people. And this is how you do it, by evaluating every day and doing something right every day. Jennifer Misher says, yes, all of this. Thank you. I thank you for coming in. Maxine says, I can heal. I am healed. I will live a healthy, healing life. Thank you. Maxine, I appreciate you coming in. You're always interactive. You're a consistent supporter. And I'm just thankful to God that you're getting something to boost you like that. And in addition, as I said earlier, well, let me finish with the shout outs. D. Kiki, you said you can find the Ultimate Wellness Group on YouTube. Please go and subscribe after this live. Yes, please. Thank you, D. Kiki. Yes, y'all, it's the Ultimate Wellness Group on YouTube. And there are some videos on my YouTube that are not on my Facebook. But you all continue to learn. Please, take some time and invest some time in your health, because I've done many videos. I'm going to continue to do videos. But I think the videos will help you. It's impossible for me to be able to impart all the knowledge that I have to you 1, 2, 5, 10 shows. But if you continue to go back and you research and you learn from my videos, I think you will watch yourself get better. As Maxine said the other day, she said she's been making small changes and she's watching herself get better. That's the reality of health. There's not one of you on here, even my sister that talked about her heart, there's not one of you on here that can't start going in the right direction and watch your body improve. Any doctor that tells you that the only thing you can do is continue to take medicine and die, they are a liar, or they're ignorant. There's one or the other. The majority of doctors in medicine don't know about the healing capacity of the body because they don't believe it. So don't get mad at a system that's made to do what they do. Don't get mad at people that don't have the ability to understand what I understand. I wasn't taught anything that you're hearing me say today. It's not true. Some of the things that I talked to you about today, about how the heart works, the specifics of things, I did learn that in medical school. I learned that in college. I learned some of those things there. But I'm talking about outside of that. When I'm talking about how the body functions and how the body heals and how things work together, they didn't teach me that. I had to learn that on my own. I went and taught myself. And so the confidence that I imbue when I do these programs is the same confidence that you can have. But I've been working at this for 17 years. I didn't get this confidence in medical school. I got this confidence after I started working through How to Eat to Live. And listening to my programs can teach you from a perspective that's probably beyond what most of your abilities are. I don't say that from an ego or arrogant perspective, right? I've been studying this so long, I'm able to go and look at things, and because of my experience and because of all my study, I can understand some things that you all haven't learned, haven't researched, haven't had any experience with. So some of the things, some of you may have to just follow until you learn a little more and get a little more experience. Valerie Metayor says, great show, thank you. D. Kiki says, what if you were born with gray hair? That's a good point. I don't know anybody that was born with gray hair. But if you were born with gray hair, it's one of two things. Either, you had some deficiencies in your hair follicles from birth, or your mother, while she was pregnant, was just doing some things that had you born with some deficiencies. Danisha Jefferson, first of all, thank you for coming. You said, one of my workers had symptoms of the flu. I prepared sauteed ginger, apple cider vinegar, and honey. I gave him key lime with honey shots. The symptoms went away within 14 hours. My question is why? I now eat grated ginger, sauteed in honey. All mucus went away. Okay, well, let me finish with this heart, and I'll get to that if I have time, because Lania Jefferson. I did a program on coronavirus. I actually did two. They're both on my YouTube channel. One is on the Facebook. So I went in detail in that. If I have time, I'll come back to that because you're making a very good point, and there's a very specific reason why the symptoms went away. But let me finish with the heart, and I'll do that at the end. Katasha Smart said, definitely going to start making changes. Clearly, mineral supplements are not enough. No, Katasha Smart, if you agree with me and you want to take on the type of philosophy that I have, you'll find everything that you need in food. And that's what my programs are about. And anybody who doesn't have the ability to do that, then that's when you can reach out to me and I'll help you. Every single one of these I get in my food. I haven't taken supplements since 2014. I haven't taken any herbs, no specific vitamins, no nutrients from anything since 2014. I'm not joking with you all. I'm not adding anything to it. That is the truth. The last time I took a vitamin tablet was in 2014. And since then, I have trusted in the food. Even through all these people that say, man, there's not enough nutrients in the soil to get your food right. Well, and how the hell did you get them in a vitamin tablet then? So you can't talk that kind of madness to a scientist and have him accept it. If there are not enough nutrients out there in that soil to produce the food, then where are you getting the ones that you're putting in these tablets that you're so-called taking that are good for you? Can't fool me. No, the reality is that God has a perfect system. And I will not argue that there are less nutrients in the soil than it used to be. But plants are just as ingenious as we are. And I mean the innate qualities of the body. A plant can't produce food unless the plant is mature. A plant can't mature unless it has the nutrients to mature. A plant can't produce food unless it has the proper nutrients to produce the food. And our thought process is so inundated with overabundance and too much, too much, too much. No, these bodies have the ability to live better, more capable, more able, and for longer with less nutrition. Don't get yourself caught up in this industry of trying to sell you products. If you don't believe me, I ask you for just 1 month. Check the calendar. What's today's date? Do what I ask you to do till next month, this date. 1 month. That's all you got to do. And that's the power of how to eat to live. I believe if you try it for 30 days, it will make you a believer. Will everything be solved? Absolutely not. Will you be in a better place? Absolutely. Mostly where? Right there. Because we've been given false information, we've been lied to, and most of it is ignorance. That we have just continued to eat the way our parents have showed us, the way our parents have done, and we just followed along in that activity because we didn't know anything else. They didn't know any better. We don't have to knock them, but at some point, every single one of us that sits here and says, well, my mama had heart problems, I have heart problems, it must be genetic. No, maybe it's your activity that you do every day. And maybe it's time to start changing that activity. Okay? We'll get to the last few statements and I'm going to talk about what's good to keep your heart healthy. Jennifer Mitchell says, thank you for coming in. First of all, yes, sir. Our sister Jennifer Muhammad, NP, gave me, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that gave me. Ask your doctors to get your numbers, family. I appreciate the health team and the nation during my health around. Please take care of yourself. There's only one of you. How to Eat to Live is the law. Absolutely. How to Eat to Live is a wonderful a whole health plan from A to Z. Maxine Bland, wow, yes. Monica Stewart, thank you. D. Kiki, thank you. Lania Jefferson, thank you. I tell people this all the time. D. Kiki's out there preaching. Go ahead. Maxine, I'm calling soon as the end of the show. Okay, yes, ma'am. I'm not sure if I'll be answered at the end of the show because I got to run straight to something. Always my Tuesdays, I do this show, and then I'm always running off to something else. But call me, leave me a message. If I can get back, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So, last few things. D. Kiki says you will most definitely see and feel the change. Yes, thank you. Victor, do you have a video that addresses fibromyalgia? Yes, I did a video on fibromyalgia. I covered in my video on autoimmune diseases. So check Facebook or YouTube. They're on there, okay? So what can you do specifically? As I said, I believe you should go back, watch my show on optimal vegetarianism without supplementation, because you don't need supplementation in order to live healthy. Go back and listen to The Science of Eating. On both of those shows, I cover the reality of how you can take care of every organ and every system in the human body. For those of you who have had heart attacks, you have pacemakers, you have heart problems, you have congestive heart failure, you have rhythm problems, reach out to me. I am not telling you this information. If you have a heart problem, if you take heart medications, this next portion is not for you. For those of you who have a history of medical problems, you have surgeries, take medications, you have pacemaker, all those type of things, I need to get more information in order to give you information. So that's why I'm being very clear that this information is not for you. The information that I'm now about to say is for the people that don't have any problems, and you're trying to just maintain your health as you go forward, or you know that your health is not where you want it to be, but you want to get it better. The most important thing in your heart after eating the right foods is exercise, hydration, and drinking water. When that heart is beating, a certain percentage of that blood is water. The more dehydrated you are, the harder the heart has to work. The heart is beating more than, and moving and doing things more than any other aspect of the human body. It would make sense if we try to do the best we can to take care of that, right? The brain never stops working, but at night when we go to sleep, when we're in stage 4 sleep, the brain is very, very, very limited activity. The heart still beating, slower, but still beating, right? And so physical activity is very important to keep a heart strong. These people who develop these medical problems and then started having their heart weaken is because they get afraid, and doctors are afraid, and doctors would rather have you sit on your behind and become weaker and weaker than to risk getting sued because they gave you some advice, and sometimes mistakes happen. But you have to stay moving. You can't develop a heart problem and get afraid and sit on the couch all the time. It's going to get weaker. Okay? So those of you who may be seeing your health deteriorate, get up and get active. Listen to my shows and understand the difference between hydration and drinking water. And when you decide that you're going to start an activity program, exercise program, don't be foolish enough to think, if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, I don't care what your age is, don't think that you're going to start doing some of this madness that you see these people out here doing. Most of it is too much for the average person. These people out here that are doing these videos, people that are on social media, working out, all that kind of stuff, some of these people are doing this all day, every day. They're in a much different shape than a person sitting on their behind all the day. Start with a small program. Start walking. That's all you need to do at first, is just walk. And notice the difference. And then slowly build up to whatever it is that you want to do. Just keep it realistic. I had a conversation with somebody today who gets into martial arts and goes to the gym and does this and does that. And then life gets busy because he's a lawyer, and then he's not able to stay on his routine. That's what you ought to be trying not to do. Instill the type of exercise program that you can do in the next 10 years, the next 40 years, the next 80 years, the next 100 years. Do you plan on living that long? When I look at 70 and 80-year-old people and they're dead, I'm looking at babies in the grave. So that's not my standard anymore. And I hope that it's not your standard anymore. But if it's not your standard, you ought to be doing something about that every day. It takes work to have good health. It takes work to keep your heart functioning correctly. So I pray that I did a job today of helping you understand your heart better. And I hope that you get to work to take care of your heart. Benny Anthony Hamilton says, I guess you're saying I'm in a wheelchair. Okay, well that's okay. If you are in a condition where you have to be in a wheelchair, then your exercise has to come through your upper body. So what you have to do with what I just finished saying is just take it and twerk it a little bit and say, I can't get up and walk, but I have to maintain my heart health by my arms. So when you're pushing yourself around in a wheelchair, you're increasing your heart rate based on your arm use. I hope that makes sense. But there's none of us that can get away from doing the right things unless you are A paraplegic, like I have a very good friend who's paralyzed from his neck down. So when I talk to him, I can't tell him to go outside and get in the sun. I can't tell him to go and exercise. But I also don't expect him to live as long as I expect you that are on this program. That's just automatic. I want to see him get as much health as he can. And I have been working with him over the last year or two. And he is trying to do the best he can on that list that I was showing you. But he can't do all of those things that you can do. But the point is, Benny Anthony Hamilton, that's a great question. But the point to everybody else is, which one of you are going to make an excuse when you're not in a situation like Benny Anthony Hamilton? You see what I'm saying? So you can always find somebody that's in a worse situation than you, and they're still striving. So let's get to striving. Your health is all you have. Your ability to take care of your family, to be the breadwinner, to bring that bag into the house, that's all wonderful. But if you don't have health in the long run to be able to enjoy that, what is the point? So I'm suggesting that everybody evaluate what you are. Evaluate where you are. Today is approximately the middle of this month. Don't start all of a sudden trying to change everything tomorrow or in the next couple of weeks. Evaluate yourself for the rest of the week. Look at your eyes every day like this in the mirror. Look at your skin every day in the mirror. Look at your fingernails. Look at your hair. Look at the front of your shins. Look at your feet. Feel how your joints feel. Every day, do an assessment on yourself. And make it a point to lead your family from April on to do something different. Don't let this coronavirus thing scare the hell out of you. Go by the store every day and just get one or two things and start building up your ability to live 3 months in a country that is attacking every other country. For those of you who missed the beginning of the program, first of all, share the show before we get off. But if you missed the beginning of the program, go back and listen. I talked about how the United States is trying to force other countries into bad health. Look at the homeless situation in all the cities that you all that are listening. Look at the homeless situation in your city and ask yourself if this country really has your best in their mind frame. So if you don't think that they do, then put it in your hands. If you're the father of your household, if you're the man of your household, if you're the woman of your household, take a little time every day to go and build you a 3-month ability to live without leaving your home. If you can do that for 3 months, your mind is at ease. Every time there's a problem that comes up in your life, if you just sit down and put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways to address that problem, it will decrease your stress level. I'm just being honest with you all. I have zero stress about coronavirus. Zero stress. A lot of you know I live in Houston, but right now I'm doing some things in LA. I'll be here for a couple of months. I'm working on getting my survival kit done here in LA, but in Houston, my survival kit is not what it used to be, but I still have the ability to be comfortable enough to know that me and my family can make it. There was one time where I had enough in my survival kit, water, supplies, medical supplies, all kind of stuff to live for a year. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. This is the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that gets us prepared like this. And you don't have to join the Nation of Islam to have this type of support. You don't have to join the Nation of Islam to have this type of information. This information is for everybody. But it is for you to take accountability for yourself and go out here and do something about it. Don't get stressed out by these people sending us all these crazy thoughts through the television and through social media. You have to control your mind. You control your thoughts. Build your system of being self-sufficient for yourself. Vincent Thomas, thank you for coming in. You say no sound. I apologize. Can y'all hear me now? Vic, thank you for coming in, bro. D. Kiki says, see, that's why I fired my personal trainer years ago, because he tried to work me like I had been working out forever and couldn't compromise. But I honestly do need to get to work exercise. Yeah, now let me balance that, D. Kiki. And I understand you fired yours, but you know, a trainer is supposed to push you now, right? But what I'm talking about are those of you who are not in the quality of health to go to a trainer and have them push you like that. You've got to go and start somewhere and get on the path, right? Because if you do get a trainer, their job is to try to push you to get to what it is that is an agreement that you all have that is your goal, okay? So it's got to be a balance. So thank you for that statement, D. Kiki. Maxine, thank you, so, ma'am. Monica Stewart, thank you. Victor, I appreciate you, bro. D Kiki, I'm not stressed out about the coronavirus season. Thank you, I appreciate that. Donna James Jones says, don't take as much as people think if they start with 1 meal a day. Yes, and and lastly, I want to say this because somebody asked, how do you get to 1 meal a day? And I think that's an excellent question. The way that you get to 1 meal a day is what I just suggested. Take the rest of the month and evaluate how many, be honest with yourself. All right, this is the key. You have to be honest. Be honest with yourself about what you're eating every day. How many times do you eat every day? How many times do you snack? And what you do is either write it down, put it in your phone, and if you don't want to write it down and put it in your phone, just have enough evaluation where you can be honest and sit down and say, okay, I'm eating 3 meals a day and I'm snacking before I go to bed at night. You've looked at your eyes, you've looked at your skin, you've looked at your nails, you've looked at your hair, you've looked at other parts of your body to see what you think your general health is like. April the 1st, cut out the snacks. April 15th, cut down to 2 meals a day. By the end of April, cut down to 1 meal a day. That's how you do it. Don't concern yourself with how good the quality of the food is at first, because just cutting down your meals is going to improve your health. Once you cut down to 1 meal, then really get yourself into my videos on optimal vegetarianism and the science of eating, and then start working on what foods, how to prepare them, and the quality of those foods. And you have taken a month and a half, 2 months, and you have greatly taken yourself in the right direction. So I hope that answers the question of the person last week that asked about 1 meal a day. Thank you, Donna James, for that point. You brought it back to memory. Warren, rest is a wonderful healer. Absolutely. All of you that listen to my programs, I always talk about the power of rest. The two aspects of that. Rest is fasting, and rest is putting your behind in the bed and getting some shut-eye. You can't be healthy without it. Gloria Miller, yes, I can hear you clearly. Thank you, ma'am. Lanya Denisha Jefferson, let me know if I said your name right. I have really bad acne. I myself come up with a regime: 1 cotton ball, wet it, 3 drops of lavender oil, 3 drops of rosemary. My skin is finally flawless now. Is it because it can be used as food? Absolutely. Acne doesn't come from something outside. Acne comes from the release of toxins from the inside, right? You can prove that by any person that works in a dirty environment. They don't have acne all over their body. So obviously it's not coming from outside. It's the release of toxins. The skin is one of our avenues by which we get rid of things. Stacy B. Conscious says, my family and I are doing what Dr. Akili suggested. We can see a change in our skin and our health. Bean soup every day will definitely cut doing on the excess cravings and crazy eating. Thank you, Stacy B. Yes, ma'am. And let me see. The person that made the comment about the virus, I don't want to take the time to go back and find it. I just want to say this quickly. The human body is the killer of anything that comes inside of it. If you go back and you listen to my program, I went in depth. But taking herbs, taking colloidal silver does not kill the virus. These things, if you're taking some type of substance, you're taking some type of herb, you're taking some type of natural substance that you're doing, that is giving nutrition to the body, boosting the immune cells, and the immune cells are going after a virus like a white racist man coming in the middle of a Nation of Islam meeting. He's not going to make it, right? That's how powerful your immune system is, all right? So all these people out here talking about colloidal silver will kill the virus. Lie. People telling you to take these certain supplements and these herbs, and that's going to kill the virus. It's not. That's not the way the human body works. These are people that speak from a place of ignorance. The place of knowledge is that everything you put in your body, whether you put a supplement, an herb, or food, it is putting some nutrition in the body which boosts each one of those systems that I showed you today. The immune system is involved all over the body through the blood flow, which we just talked about, and each organ has its own set of immune system cells within that organ that takes care of that organ. You put nutrition in the body, you boost that organ's ability, the immune system's ability, all throughout the body and each organ to solve the problem and make the body back to new. Maxine, that's your thing, right? Making you back to new. You have the ability to live many, many years past all the damage that you've done. Don't worry about it. Get to work. Shaniqua Muhammad, thank you for coming in. What are the salt measurements used to hydrate the body? For adults, I would suggest 1 teaspoon in a bottle of water, and then whatever amount of water it is that you put the sea salt in, follow that with that much water more. If you have children, you have to reach out to me, because I can't give general information about children. I have to know approximately what size they are, and I think that would make sense, right? So again, thank you all for coming in. I appreciate you spending some of your Tuesday with me and the Ultimate Wellness Group. I pray that this program gave you some ammunition to start tomorrow to evaluate, to work hard, and build your health journey. In this society that we live in, good health comes at work, sacrifice, dedication, diligence. Get to work until the next time I see you. Next week, we're going to go back into this alkalinity thing that everybody is having discussions about. So next week, we're going to talk about the alkalinity of the body, whether that is real or false. All right? So until next week, work hard. Continue to come back to the Ultimate Wellness Group to get news that you can use. Please like here, subscribe here, and please go to my YouTube channel, subscribe and like there as well. All right? Y'all have a good week. Work hard till I see you next.